It is the high-flying Falcon type that makes use of his explosive ammunition. It is HWK00 Fly-Falcon, with a kit of triple Napalm, flight legs, and the leg ability of Assail, which grants shoot boost effect to self when charging Metaforce. Now, even though aesthetically he does have a very solid design and a very good leg ability that can tie into even a scattered AoE like Napalm pretty easily, he does also have some particular struggles that make using him a little bit of a challenge. Napalm, of course, is a gunpowder-based skill, which is akin to Missile and Hyper Missile, but because it is a scattered AoE, it will damage one part at normal and two other parts at random, maybe even the same part, at 1/3 additional damage. So honestly, even though his consistent damage is just that consistent, because it does tend to scatter the damage in a rather randomized kind of way, making every hit count is kind of tricky. But with the leg ability of Assail, that does kind of tie into it, like I mentioned, where that can boost his overall damage with all three of his skills, no less, relatively consistently and pretty significantly to make even a scattered AoE deal even more damage. But he still does have some pretty glaring weaknesses that make using him a little tricky, as mentioned. Napalm, like I mentioned, is a scattered AoE, which means, again, no consistent damage, but even compared to most other flight legs, he is kind of considered lower tier across the board, so making use of his legs as maybe conventional, say if you pick them up or if you're just starting new game, I would not actively recommend using his legs compared to most other flight that we may have available in the pool or even as farmable bots to pick up. So as a pure set score across the board, I would honestly have to rate Fly-Falcon a pretty solid 4.5 out of 10. Again, not to say that his parts are bad or that you shouldn't use him, but making use of him as a pure set is kind of tricky, since again, all three of his skills are the same thing, and the scattered AoE does kind of hurt his overall viability and his damage deal out, even if his scattered damage is relatively consistent. As mixed parts, on the other hand, I would have to rate him a pretty solid 5 out of 10, just a little bit higher. Again, you can still make use of Napalm just about anywhere, and the fact that all three of his parts are Napalm means you can fit it just about anywhere in any team without really having to need to shift around anything in your build. But just be sure that if you are making use of Napalm, that because it is a scattered AoE, especially that it's given a gunpowder-based skill, that it can be negated by Gunpowder Guard in the rare instance that an opponent is using it. So just to be aware of that weakness if you are making use of anything on Fly-Falcon.